if I knew like, okay, I have to reverse engineer into that pattern, and then you don't go too early because you look at the pattern, you look at the trajectory, and you understand where you are.
Welcome everyone to UpTech Report. This is our Founders Journey series. UpTech Report is sponsored by TerraLeap. Learn how to leverage the power of video at terraleap.io. I'm joined by my guest, Gil Allouche, who's based in San Francisco, CEO and founder of Metadata.io. Now, this is part 2 of our discussion. Definitely check out part 1, where we learned about their product, Metadata, and how it's changing the space around pipeline generation. So those who are maybe a VP of demand generation in the B2B mid-market area, definitely a product to look into. But Gil, I'm excited to hear more about your journey. I mean, how did you get to where you are today, running this company of 5 years now? Tell me, what's your story?
Yeah, it started, it didn't come up in the middle of the night, the idea of a metadata. I mentioned it a little bit in the first part. I was a VP of demand gen. I was a VP of marketing. That was my role. I was a marketer, and I needed to figure out how to build pipeline for sales. I needed to do it in a repetitive manner. So that to create rapport and establish good relationship and really achieve the goals.
And you've done it at several companies, right?
Yeah, I did it in Spotfire. It was the first company I was in marketing, and then Karmosphere, and then Cubo. All 3 companies got acquired, and I learned a lot because I have an engineering mindset. I learned a lot about what is possible to automate that really should be automated today. And that really led me to starting Metadata. I realized that I have a competitive advantage being an engineer running marketing, my quant chops. And at some point, I realized that you can take me outside of the equation, and you can take my colleagues as well. Like, there's a nice cohort of technical marketers out there. You can use a piece of software to replicate what a modern technical experimental data-driven marketer would do for you. And that's why we started Metadata.
You saw where everything's going. The technology can serve that purpose. Now, you saw the need, you saw the demand, you were in the space, you're like, I'm going to start a company. Funding, obviously, is a big piece to get started. What would you say is the biggest mistake one could make when seeking funding, and any insights that you've gathered?
I think I made so many mistakes and still do about fundraising, so I can pretty much just like walk through my path, and it will be all the things you should not do. Things that you should not do, for example, is go and talk to 40 or so investors, 35 and 40 investors, without really changing the deck drastically. You change it a little bit here and there, you listen to every advice. That was really, really difficult. I learned that, and I did stop early when we did the seed after, I think, 6 or 7 meetings that were, kind of negative responses. I said, stop it. I'm going to go back to the business and work on it. Get more traction, get more momentum, get more proof, so that I believe it even more. And then I go and when we're there, decide to raise. And when you get to that mindset and you start working on the business and you start improving the KPIs, it's inevitable that you'll start having those conversations, and suddenly you'll close the seed that you were unable to close before. So that's
like that. Focusing back to building the business, and the KPIs itself will help build the right deck that people will say, yes, I want to invest in this.
That's right. And I think you were asking me before the 5 years, the tip I would give myself 5 years back, if I knew like, okay, I have to reverse engineer into that pattern, and then you don't go too early because you look at the pattern, you look at the trajectory, and you understand where you are to see, are you very investable, very attractive, not as much, you can understand those things from the point of view of the investor.
Now, one piece is funding, the next is building the right team and cultivating that. How big is the team today?
We're about 35 people.
35. And what kind of lessons learned when it comes to building the team and hiring the right people that you can share?
Similar to investing, I also made a million mistakes there. I think what I think works well is to create a culture, create a space in which you can bring in the people you would like to work with. So you create a space in which people that you really want to work with would say, this is awesome to work here. And that usually includes things like, allowing for authenticity, open environment, no hierarchy, lead by example, not make decisions from fear, but versus from opportunity. If you have those elements, those healthy elements of an early stage startup, then you'll attract the best minds because they would all want to work there. It will be the kind of area where they know, okay, I can speak my mind here. If I have a better idea, it is merit, it has merit. If I can be very direct in my communication, I can be flexible. There's flexibility here in this startup. So I think that was, an important part to create. The second part, please.
I would say, do you hire your friends, or do you go through your fundraising people? Where do you get the right people?
In the beginning, you do hit your network more often, but very quickly you learn that it has an advantage, but it also has a disadvantage because it almost creates like a secret, like a very homogenic. You hire your friend, you kind of create a homogenic, culture or company, and I find diversity to be the competitive advantage, and so. Today, and I should thank Olena and some other people who drove us to be fully remote. The way we hire today is actually it's anonymous in the beginning, meaning I don't even know if I know you or your name, your country. All of those things are anonymous. It's 100% merit-based first with a form. So the way we hire today is remote, and it's the process is such that I think we actually get the best candidates. It's fully diverse, allowing for people that are, maybe historically, like just because of a different country or before for age or gender, things that sometimes companies will disqualify. For us, 100% a competitive advantage. We found it to be very advantageous to work with people that have, from a performance perspective, from a credentials perspective, overqualified, but from other factors that before working remote had higher weight, they are disqualified. And so when we find that match, it's usually the best because we give an opportunity that they didn't have otherwise, and we get talent that we wouldn't have otherwise.
It's a win-win when it comes to that. Now, building the right team, that's a powerful step so that you could be able to move forward. Now, getting the right clients, that's where the money comes. In today's environment, and obviously this is the space you're in, you're actually providing this service, what common mistakes do you see people are making when it comes to marketing in the world that we're in right now?
I think it's easy to do too much and lose focus and not be really conscious about what you're doing. So I think what works is starting, you're asking about from a customer acquisition perspective, is starting with things that don't scale. Going really and talking to every customer that purchases your product and understanding intimately why exactly did they buy, using those words, not the words that you come up with in a meeting with other VPs, using the customer words on your website, use the customer words for the salesperson's script, using the, setting up a cab early, customer advisory board, learning very intimately from them what works, what doesn't work, getting the feedback before the customer churns, when they're just starting to get pissed off, when you miss up on something.
For your customer advisory board, how did you set that? How did you set that up, and how do you use it?
Customer advisory board for us is comprised of customers that are representing our ideal customer profile, and we meet every month. We have an open Slack channel, and we have a few other communication methods in which we run by the advisory board features that we want to build, the roadmap prioritization. Every time we're about to introduce new pricing, a new service, when we're asking about our position in the market, when you need help, when you get new customers, they'll get testimonials, get a reference. All of those things, the customer advisory board is very, very helpful because they're very honest, they're very direct, they already have the relationship, but they also represent the other side. So they can tell you like, look, professional services, yeah, you should be putting professional services. Like we were waiting for you to charge us for it, That's something that the kind of feedback that you can get from a customer that is close to you and it's really a partner.
You wouldn't know unless you were having those conversations, which is powerful. How long did you have that advisory board? Like from early on, and what year in did you create that?
Well, the advisory board for the company is something we did very early with some customers, but not only. And that started really in 2016. In fact, my board member today, Bill Portelli, he was an advisor of mine first, and he connected me with customers, etc. And then the customer advisory board itself, just the customers having their own cohort, that started about a year back, maybe a little
year
less.
back. Gotcha. Okay, so about 3-4 years in. For you yourself as a leader, any books, podcasts, audiobooks that you would recommend that you're a big fan of?
One day I hope Ben Horowitz is going to send me a check for this comment, because the hard things about hard things, the first book that he wrote, and the second thing that he wrote, You Are What You Do, I consider those to be extremely valuable. They're very down to earth, very personal and intimate, and they talk about the real shit that happens, excuse my language, starting a company. So I think those are really, really beneficial.
Last question for you, Gil. What do you predict as far as technology, innovations coming down the line, near term and long term? What do you see coming up?
I mean, near term, I think, a lot of automation, of course, and a lot of remote. So anything that will enable people to work remotely and work completely digitally, I think this is short term. Everyone understands this has already been shrunk to for the next 5 years to the next year. I think long term, we're going to start seeing things that we didn't really think of, meaning we had some ideas of how the future is going to look like. And I think that the faster, the whole, the pattern, it will change faster. So as the next few years will come, we'll see things that we expected to come in 5-10 years faster, and then it'll be a completely new creative world to live in, because the changing is happening fast.
I agree with you. Things seem to be speeding up, and if anything, that automation and integration of technology is going to blow us away.
Yeah, right? That's how they call the event.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Gil, for sharing both your insight, the journey that you've been on. Definitely check out part 1 if you haven't yet, to hear more about Metadata and the amazing, interesting platform that they are building and what they're moving forward with. To check more out, go to metadata.io or go to uptechreport.com to hear more great interviews. Thanks again for joining us. Our sponsor for today's episode is TerraLeap. If your company wants to learn how to better leverage the power of video to increase your sales and marketing results, head over to terraleap.io and learn about the new product, Customer Stories. Thanks again, everyone, and we'll see you next time. Have you seen a company using AI, machine learning, or other technology to transform the way we live, work, and do business? Go to uptechreport.com and let us know.